Can you speak to the importance of being an active participant and nurturing of the community you live in? And furthermore, when and why did you deem it to be important for you to return home to pursue the implementation of change in Northeast Omaha?
Yeah, and I really want to answer that second part first. I People have always asked me because I went to school out of state twice, and they ask, like, oh, you going back home? Why are you going back home? Why are you going back to Omaha? And it's honestly been difficult to articulate why I came back home because, I could have easily stayed in Columbus with a lot of my friends. I could have stayed in the Lawrence, Kansas City area and grown there. But something inside of me something kept drawing me back home. And I guess I kind of always just narrowed it down to if I have a calling or a passion for community work, there's no other community that I would want to do it in than my own. So, and I mean, by all means, I encourage people to move and to see the world, but whatever works for you works for you. I think a lot of people sometimes feel guilty if they feel like they need to stay home or that they're comfortable in their home. You don't have to feel guilty about that. And I never had that guilt or never had that feeling that I needed to go anywhere else because the work that I'm doing is so gratifying, in my own community. And I think that was just, like you said, if that was just different strokes for different folks, that was where I ended up. And that's where I feel like I'm thriving and doing really well. So I think it's been pretty inexplicable as to, why, I came back to Nebraska or boomerang back and then stayed home. But it's just something that I can't fully put into words. I just felt like, okay, it was natural for me to just come back home and immediately fall into community work, fall into nonprofit work. But I will say, I think the reason it's so important for an individual to be an active participant in their community is to see the change that they are interested in. Like, be the change that you want to see is, it can be a cliche, but it's true. Folks have opinions, they have ideas, they have thoughts. And I'm not saying that you have to go, protest at your state house or, I mean, writing to your senators is a good idea. But I mean, if you actively say, I have identified this gap or this obstacle, this challenge that my community is facing, you are someone who can change that. And I think a lot of people feel stuck or they don't know how. You don't even have to have an incorporated 501c3 to just do good things. And I think people always kind of see, structural barriers, those kinds of things. But if you and a group of friends on a monthly basis want to go volunteer somewhere at a Boys and Girls Club, at a food bank, something like that, and just kind of learn the ropes and then kind of identify your space or your niche, then do that. And I think that it's so important to be an active participant in your community because we are the people who shape it. Like, if we don't speak up, closed mouths don't get fed. So if a need isn't being addressed or isn't being called out, or folks are ignoring it because they think nothing will ever change, the attitude that nothing will ever change is what keeps communities the same. So if you can feel like something can change, then you can enact that change. And even if you feel like, oh, there's only a small group of us, those things will grow. Like, every single one of our community cleanups didn't have 50, 60, 100, 500 volunteers. There were some that only had 10. There were some that only had 5. But that day we still collected a huge amount of trash. And then you would see this kind of outpouring of love on social media. And sometimes those are the people that don't know how to get involved or feel insecure, embarrassed. They don't know, they don't want to come alone, whatever that is. But being an active participant means kind of going through the ebbs and flows and just keeping faith that something will change. So, like, recently, our social media had a huge uptick in like followers, and our Facebook page is now at like 3,000, I think, followers or likes or whatever. And our Instagram is, getting close to 1,500. And it's been almost 4 years, but you just chip away, because once you have proof of concept and people see that you're there to stay, then they can engage. And so I think being an active participant in your community is just so valuable and important, because we all do have that power. We're more powerful collectively and together. That's why collaboration is so important. That's why we collaborate so often, whether it's, Black businesses as our vendors or as our sponsors, or, the D9 being, our core volunteer base. Like, collaboration is so important. And we all have these goals. We all have these things that we want to see happen in our communities. I mean, and being an active participant is the way that you make it happen. Because if you are on social media commentating, I like to always kind of say that some people are commentating their life. They're spectators to life. If you're a spectator, you're going to continue to be dissatisfied. If you engage in the gratifying work, you're going to feel so much better about your community, and you're going to feel more encouraged about your community. And I think those things go hand in hand.